everybody. Welcome to another podcast by me. Yes, by me, Ryan Chattaway. I haven't done one, I think, in maybe about a week, but that doesn't matter because I'm coming back in full force. I'm loaded up on coffee. I'm loaded up on caffeine. I'm loaded up on sugar. I'm loaded up on movies. I'm loaded up on everything you could possibly think of. I just got done cleaning the house, so I got all those chemicals in my system, all those dust bunnies that I was breathing in. I am really going strong today. Today I am going to be talking about one of my favorite passions in life that I've actually never really talked about on YouTube in general. And so I figured, you know what, I might as well go ahead and make it this podcast subject. And it's something that's really close and personal to a lot of different people. Basically, if you have a beating heart, it's personal to you, and that is music, the power of music. I have had plenty of experience with listening to music, playing the music, and really it's just been a huge part of my life, as you could probably say the same thing too. And mainly that's just because there's something about music that really kind of transcends the soul. It goes straight for the gut, it goes right to your heart. A song can lift you up, it could tear you down. There's so many different things about music that's just great. Unlike watching movies, movies can bring you up and, some might destroy you and tear you down, but music actually really does it quicker. You could be driving down the street and then all of a sudden a song will come on and it's from like the early 90s and you're like, oh sweet, this is when I was in high school or whatever, and you automatically feel nostalgia, you feel positivity if it really was a positive event. You might even feel young at heart, and you might have a renewed strength of energy. And so yeah, that is what is awesome about music. It transports you back to where you first heard that song. There's just a legitimate power of music, and that is why music, just like artwork in general, has really been around forever. I mean, it hasn't been here since the dawn of man, but I mean, I'm pretty sure when those guys were walking around in the caves and when they're, cavemen, I'm sure some of them started, banging rocks together like they were in, History of the World Part 1, the film by Mel Brooks. But music is just a huge thing, and it's when you're somebody like me, and I know a lot of people are the same way, I'm very sensitive to that kind of like um, I guess you could say, to stuff that deals with my heart or to passion. I'm one of those people. Um, I have a loud voice, I guess you could say, and I'm very passionate about stuff. Some people aren't nearly as vocal about stuff, but I am, and for some reason, especially if it's something I'm passionate about, I really can get myself into trouble, or it could just help me, in terms of maybe a job, maybe a video, that kind of stuff. And so I'm really sensitive to certain things and certain feelings, and music is definitely one of them. That's why music really, you know, it has the power to destroy me or bring me up. And that's why I wanted to talk about music and what music's made or done to my life and what it's been to my life. So, I grew up with, my father was like, into, just a lot of classic type stuff, like the Beach Boys and the classic rock, the 60s. And, I think there's even some country thrown in there. And then I have a brother who's 18 years older than me who grew up, in the 80s. So he was listening to U2, the Beatles, REM, all that stuff at the turn of, the late 80s to the early 90s. I remember being with him when the Green Day Dookie CD came out, and I remember being blown away by that. I have vivid memories of listening to Nirvana when Nirvana, the album, the big album, with all their like a lot of their famous stuff. The big album, I think it's Nevermind. I think it's the name of the album. I always, blank on that kind of stuff in the middle of doing a podcast, especially. But I have vivid memories of different things, and I remember being a kid, being young. I remember like for Christmas one year, like when I was really little, I got my first boom box, and it came with my dad actually got me a Beach Boys CD. So I was like, a little kid walking around in Jack's Beach, listening to the Beach Boys, like everybody's going surfing, and that was me. That was me. That was me as a kid, and I have memories of listening to stuff. The song California Dreamin' was my favorite song as a kid. I had no idea what it was about, but I remember I used to go up to my dad's stereo and be like, Dad. Well, I didn't go up to the stereo and say, Dad. I was like, Dad, can you please put on California Dreamin'? Because I really just feel like listening to it. And so I'd be sitting there in front of the, the stereo and being like, California dreaming. And I'm just like, a little kid doing this. I'm acting like I'm stoned, even though I'm not. And I was, probably like 6 years old. And so music has always had a big impact in my life. And as I got older, I think some of my brothers, you know, music tastes really influenced me because I grew up listening to the Beatles, really got into U2, REM, and all that stuff. And of course, a big band like now, like Green Day. I remember when Dookie came out because my brother went out and bought the CD, and we listened to it in the car. And really, since that album came out, I've, you know, loved Green Day. People could say whatever they want about how they're kind of poppy now, all that kind of crap. But the thing is that from day one of their breakthrough album, now that they've been one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band, because of that. And so I remember, listening to that album all the time. And I remember when their next album, Insomniac, came out, I bought that. And then I remember when the next album, Nimrod, came out, I bought that, and so on and so forth. And, Green Day has always been one of my all time favorite bands. And, of course, like Pink Floyd, I was, just looking at my brother's CDs and I came across Dark Side of the Moon. And then, I also came across the You Were Here album. And I was just like, just intoxicated by with this music. It was not like what you were hearing on the radio in the mid 90s. It was not what you were hearing. Like all the stuff you were hearing on the radio in the mid 90s on like the big time stations was more of I think like New Kids on the Block kind of stuff. It was before the Backstreet Boys and all them came out. So um, I was really unsatisfied. So I was going to the older stuff. And let me get a sip of my water. Sorry about that. But yeah, so I mean, always went back to the older stuff. There was a brief period of time where I would just really wanted to try stuff differently, and so like I was really kind of just looking to see what kind of music was really popular at the time, and um, came across um, Blink 182's Dude Ranch CD, and people would say all they want about Blink 182, um, but they have actually had a major impact on my music loving life, and that is mainly because I was growing up, and they really kind of spoke to my teen angst, I guess you could say, and and as I got older, of course, and even now, I'm really into like Angels and Airwaves and that kind of style of music, and like Coldplay, and I'm really into really just everything, and so I'm trying to give you a kind of clear picture of the kind of music that I listen to. I love Metallica. I love, a lot of, I still listen to even like the Dead Kennedys, Bouncing Souls. In my car, I could have, the Rudy soundtrack, the Star Wars soundtrack, the Godfather Part 2 soundtrack, Blink 182, Dude Ranch, and then I'll also have like Green Day American Idiot, and then I'll also have, you know, Green Day Dookie, followed by the newest Coldplay CD, followed by Wish You Were Here, followed by Metallica S&M, followed by Frank Sinatra. So like I really love everything. I'm just not really into rap. I've never been big into rap. Um, sometimes like, being at school dances and stuff, like that's when I kind of enjoyed rap because, it really kind of excited the crowd. And but I never bought like a rap CD. I was just never really into it. I was really into the instruments. I wasn't really into the electronic like beats and all that stuff and like DJ stuff. Just really wasn't into it. And so this is I guess you could say, my music taste. So now that I've given you like the style of music I like, all that stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and just go ahead and go down the road of my experiences with playing music. Going into sixth grade, to middle school, I really, I was doing a lot of writing. I was doing a lot of art. I loved movies, and I wanted to do something different. So I went and signed up for band, and I ended up choosing the one of the hardest instruments I feel like a sixth grader could learn how to play, and that would be the French horn. Um, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and within a few months, I was learning scales, all this stuff, and trying to be trying to be first chair French horn in 6th grade. It didn't work out back then, but I would have little concerts and stuff. We would have Christmas concerts. We would actually travel around the country playing competitions. I remember playing like songs like Colonel Bogey March and all these things from just like some really good symphonic pieces. And I just, remember just being blown away that I was even doing this. I could still, because even though sadly, I haven't even touched a French horn since high school, and I could still do all the fingers for all the notes. Like I'm doing it right now with my fingers. I'm literally doing the chromatic scale. And it's just really sad that I don't do that anymore. But so throughout middle school, I played the French horn. I ended up meeting my absolute best friend of all time, my friend Toby, in 6th grade band class, and we had a big connection, and we were just really close friends. Spending every night or every weekend at his house, we were people, that we would be walking around school, and you couldn't separate us. We were best friends. You know, um, we told everything to each other. We tried to get each other girlfriends, all that kind of stuff. He was like my typical best friend. Well, he played the guitar, and I had no background in guitar. I had never touched a guitar, and I remember in 6th grade. Actually, I think it was no, it was 6th grade. At this point, I remember going to his house and he was playing Nirvana and all this stuff on his guitar. He was a really good guitar player, and I was like, dude, I really need to learn how to play this stuff. And through the months went by, and we actually gone into 7th grade at this point, and he was, after seeing him play like every single day that we had hung out, and me attempting to play the guitar, I was like, you know what? I want to play an instrument too, but I do not want to play the same as you, to where, we can't like jam out. It'd actually be cool if like we could actually have like a little band of some sorts. And so I actually went to a music store and just kind of tried out different instruments like drums. And then I was like, no, I'm not a drummer. I can't keep a beat. Well, then I ended up picking up a bass guitar, and that was it. That sold me. And I remember asking for a bunch of money for my birthday and Christmas, since they're close together, and my family kind of went in and gave me money to buy my first bass guitar. And it's actually the only bass I've ever owned. I decided, yes, I could get a better instrument, probably even a better brand, a more expensive one, but there's something I really find hard to let go of stuff. And so I've actually only had this bass. I've played other basses. People have, and like I'll getting into more of this in a little bit, but I've played in different bands to where an instrument has been provided for me. But on my personal time, this is actually the only bass that I have, and it is actually a dark blue Ibanez. And I even still have the first batch of picks that I bought for it. Now, when I got older, I learned how to play jazz bass, so I didn't even use picks. I haven't used a pick in probably like 10 years. I still, just slap the bass and pick at it with my fingers and stuff. And so that is where I was at then. And so we had been, jamming out and stuff like that. And I don't know how it came about, but he thought about starting a band. And I wasn't really good at the bass yet, and so what we did was another one of our close friends, James, he played the drums. I knew him from school as well. He lived near Toby. James played the drums, Toby played guitar, and I had a buddy. We all had a friend named Luke who was in band with us, who knew how to play bass, who started to play bass. So he actually played bass, and they had this band. And I guess you could say I was just like the technical groupie. No, I mean not a groupie, but I was like, the guy who was there helping setting everything up. I would even fill in at practices, um, that kind of thing. I don't know why I just said I was a groupie when I was essentially a part of the band. But they ended up, we ended up, getting together, practicing every day. Some days Luke wouldn't show up, or like he couldn't show up, so I would fill in and play the bass. And so I was just kind of like a fill-in for a while, just because I had made the decision not to seriously, start playing my bass. I just kind of let it sit there, and I would just slap it every once in a while. But so 8th grade rolls around. There is a name of the band. I think Toby came up with the name. I think he said that it was something that he heard at a Green Day concert one time. Somebody was joking. I don't know how it came about, but the name we settled on was Secret Shoe. Yes, it sounds ridiculous and really random, and it's your typical local band name that does not make sense. And it didn't really even make sense to us. Um, but it stuck, and everybody knew the name, like in our school and stuff like that. We had a awesome opportunity to actually play it in eighth grade. Play at the school. There was like an eighth grade assembly. They set everything up on the stage, and Luke, Toby, and James they played a huge set of Blink 182, Bouncing Souls, a bunch of cover stuff in front of the entire middle school, and on the bass drum, was a big picture of my face because one of the signature songs of the band was actually about me, kind of not making fun of me, but it was just like I was my last name being Chattaway. It kind of was a thing we would make a big deal out of my last name being kind of weird and stuff. So like we wrote a song solely based around my last name. Toby actually came up with the entire song, and I actually there's people to this day that I run into if I ever even bring up that band, they say, "Hey, it's Chattaway wants more," because that was one of the lines out of the thing. Chattaway wants more than a 25-cent whore. We're in middle school, and that is what we're singing about. I want more than a 25-cent whore. I mean, it's funny, and we had a lot of fun. And I don't know what ended up happening on this, but I remember Luke couldn't play in the band anymore. I think he just had other interest, or he went to another person's band. And so then I became a official member of Secret Shoe. Now, when I came aboard, that's when we all started talking about, and I'm sure they were probably thinking about it then, but we were meeting every day after school for multiple hours in James's garage, and we ran through probably the same 15 songs over the next 3 years and just played. Some stuff was hardcore, some stuff was just kind of a light punk, some stuff was just classic rock, some was just stuff that didn't have anything to do with anything. It was just its own genre, I guess you could say. And we really wanted to start playing gigs, but we're in like, it's just, we're in eighth grade, ninth grade kind of by this point too, and we just don't know where we can play. And I don't know how this came about, but we had some kind of connections to a local skate place that everybody hung out at, everybody skated at. It was kind of like an indoor warehouse skate park, um, in Atlantic Beach, Florida area. And somehow, I don't know how, maybe if Toby listens to this or if James listens to this, you guys could put in the comments if you remember how we actually got this to happen. But we ended up starting band nights at a place called Skate Lab in Mayport, or Atlantic Beach. And I remember, man, it was a huge, huge deal for us. We were so ready for this gig. We needed this gig to be a local band. We had been going to a bunch of local bars around town, seeing all these punk bands, local punk bands playing, trying to start friendships, connections with these people, and for some reason it just wasn't clicking. I think it was because of our age, um, because literally it would take 2 seconds for us to start playing a song for a mosh pit to start. I mean, so it's not like we played awful music or anything like that. I think it was just had to do with our age. And so I guess we really had to go to the kind of venue that really people our age went to, and it was more accessible to them instead of a dive bar in downtown Jacksonville that you have to enter through an alleyway to even get to it. Um, so we ended up, practicing for, I mean, I would say we had to practice for like 300 hours total um, before this first show because we planned it. It was like months in advance, and we practiced we got home from school and we practiced until about 8 o'clock when we really had to stop. And then I would go home. I would just ride my bike home or whatever. I mean, it was our life to do this. And we ended up playing the show, and it was a major success. We invited all of our friends. We invited people in the school that remember they knew of this band brewing between us, and they just never saw it. So we had people come. James had a girlfriend that like made shirts for her and her friends. Like I think it was just like stuff with like markers and stuff that they wrote on there, and it was so epic. It was amazing, and You couldn't even really walk around in certain areas because the mosh pit was so crazy, and it was so awesome to be playing in front of an audience. And nothing topped that. That first initial bang, nothing has topped it since. And so after our first show, we're kind of riding that little, we're in high school, we had a band, or we have a band, and we just had our first show. So I'm sure um, our minds, like any band, some of our mindset started changing a little bit. It really became, in some cases with me, it became more about, um, reaching a bigger crowd. Toby was the same way. We all had our different feelings about the whole thing. Like any kind of band, there's always going to be kind of conflict of, um, not interest, but conflict in terms of where we wanted the band to go. And so this band had been on. We had been together for like 3 or 4 years. We had set up the second show, and by the second show, which was months down the road, we had a fan base. We had some merchandise. It was like us trying to plan, the Godfather Part Two. It was just like, to us, our masterpiece was the first show. I'm sure if I go back and I was an audience member, I'm sure we sounded just like every other band, but to us, we felt like we were at the top of the world. We loved it, and so we got merchandise made. I actually still have one of the patches that we made. So we had a bunch of friends that were, you know, into wearing all the punk patches and stuff like that. They would patch stuff up, like on their jackets and stuff to support our band. And we were all ready for this show. I think we had practiced so much and we were together so much that we started arguing and fighting a lot. And it kind of culminated in that second show. We were at Skate Lab. We were playing the second show. Tensions were high. Turnout wasn't as great as I think we thought. We were going to close down the block. That normal kind of stuff that comes to the mind of somebody who's young and in a band and has, a different view of ambition and what they have. And we ended up having a little breakdown on stage without people really even knowing. We ended up, I think something happened after the show. We had just played the last set, or the last song, and I think James said that he quit, and because we got in an argument like and I don't know, we were all in bad moods, and something happened, and James was the first one to say I quit, and he had a lot of other stuff that he was doing in terms of school and playing drums, and I think our lives were kind of getting crazy too, like in terms of having a lot on our plate because we were all still in band, playing our instruments. Toby played the saxophone, James did percussion, and I played the French horn. And so we were just kind of, I think, stretching ourselves out, and our tensions were just getting the best of us. And we ended up, breaking up as a band, and nothing ever beat that first show. And so this segment, it was a huge, and there's still people that remember our band because, yeah, we only played 2 official shows, but countless people would come to the garage and watch us play. One of my brothers came and watched us play all the time. Actually, I completely forgot. We did not just have 2 shows. We had a third show before the breakup show, and that was actually at our high school. There was a talent night, and they were trying to have all these people that do talents and stuff, like musical stuff, outside of school to come in, like bands would perform. Man, we played on the stage in front of a full auditorium of um, kids and parents and stuff like that, and it was sold. I mean, the show was sold out because it was just like a bunch of people, doing talents, and it was sold out. They were trying to fundraise for the school. We played all our set on the floor. We didn't even go up on the stage. We went in the front of the stage, and students started like a little mosh pit. I remember my dad being all the way in the back, and he said that it was awesome, but it was really loud. Everybody thought it was really loud, like all the adults, but all the high schoolers and students loved it. It was amazing. So there was a total of 3 shows that we had as a band, and we just ended up breaking up. And of course, we're still all friends to this day, and we shared this amazing experience together as teenagers. Um, but we experienced what a lot of local bands experience, and that's where they try to, you know, be perfect, I guess you could say. Like Really did not want to go the route of, one way or another. Started comparing ourselves to different local bands, but of course, it's not going to be perfect at all, because of life, and that's just really what happened. It's not a tragic story. It's just something that we all remember. It was fun while it lasted, I guess you could say. And there's not a day goes by that I don't think about that. And in fact, I still randomly talk to people, and they're like, "Hey, is there ever going to be a Secret Shoe reunion?" And we like always talk about it. But James is in the military, and when we were really serious about talking about a reunion, I think he was like stationed over in Italy or something like that. And so it just never really worked out. We got together one time years later after we broke up, after I think high school, and played. We jammed out one time, and that was pretty much it. But they all did their own little things on the side. They all started their bands on the side, and I kind of just separated myself from that, from the music part. Um, Now, around the time of the breakup, I was still in band in high school, and we actually went around the country, um, you know, doing different competitions and stuff like that. And one vivid memory I have is going to Arizona to play for the Fiesta Bowl parade, and it was amazing. We were in the desert, pretty much, of Arizona, and we were marching, with our and we because it was kind of a mixture between marching and then like kind of a normal symphonic type orchestra, piece, but mainly marching because it was a marching band competition, and it was just mind blowing. The experience, I mean, the experience there. I mean, playing on a real field, not just a high school field, and really for a competing standpoint was just amazing. And a bunch of our friends, we were there. Toby didn't end up going to. He didn't end up being in band in high school. James was, but we had a bunch of new friends by that point too, and so we went, and when we went to Arizona, we got in some trouble. Of course, some of the chaperones never knew that we were up to no good, but it was just a really, really, really fun experience. And um, it's just I don't know like what really happened. I think my motivation just changed. I was getting a little bit older. I was interested more in trying to get girlfriends and all this stuff, and some of that stuff just kind of went to the side. And I think the nail in the coffin was when we found out that our band director in ninth grade was actually going to be um, moving to a different state. And I was like, okay, well, if he's not going to be a band director, I'm just going to go ahead and quit. So, beginning of 10th grade, I quit band, and I have not touched the French horn since. Do I regret it? No, because I don't regret anything in life, but I do acknowledge that that had a huge impact on me and on my life, because it really, I could still look at music to this day and read music from the French horn, and it really taught me a valuable lesson in taking your time and really practicing. And practice makes perfect, but not trying to reach that perfection. And I kind of apply that in every area of my life, to where the practice is what makes it. I would not have been able to be a good French horn player unless I did the practice. I would not have been able to be in competitions unless I practiced and wanted to be good and wanted to compete. And it really um, gave me a sense of um, discipline in certain areas of my life. Unfortunately, it didn't really leak over into my studies. I still got good grades in all of my favorite subjects and stuff, but I wasn't an A student. But in terms of the artistic parts of me, I developed a very, a discipline for I don't like to make things below a certain standard that I know I can do. And it has nothing to do with me thinking I'm really good at certain things. It just if I love something, if I'm passionate about something, why am I going to half-ass it? I guess I should say. And so even to this day, the way I make videos, I've made a Fright Fest video for this year that I was going to put up for my third annual Fright Fest, but I was slightly unhappy with some of the footage I got, and I'm not going to just put out a crappy video just so I could put out a video. I want to make sure that I am very happy with it, because if I'm going to put my creative stamp on it and put my name on it and be in it, I'm not going to have it crap. Like that's just not how I go. And I have put up videos that I was really unsure about and I was just really thinking down about in terms of quality and stuff like that. But um, I didn't like it, and I remember down the road I ended up deleting them off of my YouTube channel because I just was not happy with it. And it has nothing to do with me being full of myself, none of that. I mean, some people might think that, but I'm really not. People who know me personally know that I am definitely not full of myself, and like everybody else, I have self-esteem issues, and I don't think highly of myself sometimes to begin with. Um, but with that said, I learned through band that I should not put out crap. If I put my hand to something, I do not need to half-ass it. And it's almost kind of like, you could tell a kid to, hey, I want you to go outside and mow the yard. Well, okay, the kid goes out and mows the yard and he does a crappy job. If you do a crappy job at mowing the yard, are you going to feel good about it? No, it's going to be a waste of time and work for no reason because it looks like crap. That's how I feel about doing the videos. If I love doing it, why would I want to half-ass it? Why would I want to make the quality crap when I know that I have potential to do better than that? And that was something that band taught me. It taught me never to settle for that. It told me never to settle for less because and that that I put that in terms of my marriage, in terms of my work, all that stuff. It's never I'm never going to settle. And that's something that all those experiences taught me. Being in those relationships with my buddies and my bandmates, it really taught me a lot about life and about, um, just not settling. There's so many people that settle in life and they are unhappy and they go to their deathbed and they say, I regret the last 40 years of my life because I settled. I settled for that job. I settled for that. I want to get to the end of my life and know that every single thing I did because I wanted to do it and I put my whole heart and my soul into it. And that is what I learned with the music. Music helped that. The time I put, the effort I put into it, it really built that up. If me and my friend or me and my wife get into a fight, I'm not going to let it go. We're going to work through it. I'm not going to get to the end of my life and think that I wasted so much time being negative, so much time failing, so much time not putting my heart into it, because I'm not going to be that person. And so if this podcast, if it inspires you at all, if there's one thing you take away from this, other than the fact that Ryan was in a band when he was a kid, he was in a band, blah blah blah, whatever. If you get anything out of this podcast, it's just this: don't settle for less. Don't. Each and every one of you that are listening to this podcast have talents, have gifts, have very awesome, positive things that you can do with your life. If you're in an unhappy situation, if you're in a very, desperate situation, reevaluate. See what you can do to make it better. Never settle. Don't get to the end of your life and regret the last 40, years, 50 years of your life that you feel like you wasted. Because each and every one of us are so much better than that. We have so much potential. And I know a lot of you in this YouTube community that are listening to this video um, probably feel the same way I do about life in general. You feel like sometimes maybe you had, you know, roadblocks and stuff like that, and you just feel like you need that extra push. I need that push every single day, every time I come through towards a trial or something like that, and whether I'm having a hard day at work. I'm not going to settle. Sometimes when I do settle, I spend that whole night trying to get out of it, and it's really hard to get out of it. And I have a great group of friends around me. My wife is amazing. She is amazing. I just made up a word, amazing. My wife is amazing. She is so good at motivating me. She is amazing at just, if I'm feeling a certain way, she'll say, Ryan, come on. That's not you. You're better than that. You're better than that. Stop thinking that way about yourself. She is an amazing motivator. She is awesome in everything that she does. And so and I just can't even fathom if I didn't go through all this experience of being in band, learning how to play music, didn't have that discipline to want to be better. Um, and some people hear that and they think, oh, he just wants to be a really awesome person and full of himself. No, it's about being happy with yourself. It's about taking what you have in you that you're born with. your passions, your love, and making the best of it, and living a fruitful and positive life. And in this day and age, the world is so negative. We need to be positive. And I think I'm just at a loss for words now about where to go from here. But um, if you get anything out of this podcast, hopefully I inspired you to think about certain areas of your life that you maybe know you can do better. I'm thinking right now, there's areas at work, there's areas in my YouTube channel, there's areas in my marriage that I know I can do better. And talking about it has really reminded me of those areas. And so I'm going to make sure that those times when those issues come up, I'm going to not only take it on, but I'm going to take it on with a smile and take it on with the strength that I know that I have. And so that is going to sum up this podcast. I remember talking with my buddy Luke Ryan here on YouTube about this podcast, and I was like, I think my next podcast is going to be pretty big. I think it's going to be an hour and a half long. That was before I realized that actually, if I get hopped up on some caffeine, I could really get an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of dialogue into a 30 to 40-minute podcast. And so thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening to my, I don't want to say rant, but my venting on life and trying to inspire people to be positive with my experiences of music and so on and so forth. And as always, I hope you know more about me. Feel free to leave comments under this. Send me a message on Facebook. Tell me what you thought about it. If I inspired you, I feel free to send me your thoughts. I really would love some feedback, as always, on all my videos. You can always leave comments because I'll always see the comments. I just don't know at that time will I be able to reply. But thank you so much for listening. And remember, there is 3 ways of doing things: the right way, the wrong way, and the Chattaway. See ya.